Hey guys, tonight we tumble backward through time into a world where beds aren't just for sleeping. They're for ruling, healing, praying, plotting, and occasionally hiding from your enemies. You're standing barefoot on a marble floor chilled by centuries, staring into the glowing gold chamber of a Byzantine emperor. And everything about it smells expensive. The bed in the center is no ordinary thing. It's more fortress than furniture, framed in cedarwood, stacked in tiered luxury, and swaddled in silks dyed so deeply purple they almost swallow the candlelight. 100 pillows rise like a velvety mountain, arranged with suspicious precision, each one plump, puffed, and positioned by someone who probably earns more than a modern-day surgeon. The scent of crushed rose petals lingers in the air, mingling with something sharper, clove maybe, or some imperial blend of incense, so rare it had to be mule-packed from Persia. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You move closer, trailing your fingers along the golden embroidery of the sheets. Real gold, by the way. Because thread spun from humble cotton just wouldn't do for someone who believed they rule by divine right. The room flickers with a dull gleam of hanging oil lamps, their glass chimneys etched with miniature battle scenes. Because why not relive your greatest military victories as you doze off? Behind you, peacocks pace the edges of the chamber, their jeweled harnesses tinkling softly as they rustle their tail feathers like gossiping courtiers. These birds aren't just for flair, they're nocturnal noise alarms. Trained to screech at unfamiliar footsteps, they're basically the OG security system with feathers and attitude. You approach the bed carefully, because let's face it, this is less of a bed and more of a holy object, a ceremonial platform, a pillow-plastered temple of sleep and symbolism. And it's enormous, big enough for a small army, yet reserved only for one man who calls himself Basilius Tun Roman, Emperor of the Romans, even though he's never set foot in Rome. The sheets are layered in crimson damask and Byzantine silk, stitched with griffins, crosses, and subtle little messages in Greek, like, "Blessed be the sleeper," and "May God watch my dreams." And yes, that's a real embroidered prayer, right there where your back would rest. Now here's your first surprise. These emperors didn't always sleep alone. No, this isn't where things get saucy. It's where things get weird. Beside the bed, on smaller cots tucked into a crescent formation like orbiting moons, are the bodies of courtiers, guards, and sometimes even clerics. You sleep under supervision. You snore under scrutiny. And if you dare thrash about or talk in your sleep, someone will report it. Imagine waking up groggy and having a monk hand you a scroll detailing your dream rant about roasted figs and tax policy. And those pillows? Not just for comfort. Each one has a label. Yes, an actual embroidered tag, indicating whether it's medicinal, symbolic, or purely for show. One's filled with herbs thought to calm the spleen. Another is infused with holy oil scraped from a saint's tomb. You spot a pillow shaped like a lion's paw, supposedly channeling courage into your dreams. A little much, sure, but this is the empire that gave us both haloed icons and tax audits written in verse. Mainstream historians agree. The Byzantines were the masters of ritual. Every object served a liturgical or imperial purpose, and that included sleep. The emperor's bedtime routine was more choreography than wind down. It might begin with the Clyserai ceremony, where chamber doors were sealed with prayer and beeswax. Then came the foot washing, performed by a eunuch naturally, and a reading from the Psalms, often chosen based on omens or recent dreams. Only then would you ascend the steps to your impossibly tall mattress, like Moses climbing Sinai, one plush layer at a time. And the noise, oh, the engineered quiet. Courtiers weren't allowed to whisper. The lamps burned animal fat, filtered through snow-collected rainwater to avoid crackling. Even your personal scribe walked in wool-wrapped slippers. Silence wasn't just golden, it was enforceable by exile. You were expected to fall asleep, not just peacefully, but reverently. Your bed was sacred. Because you were sacred, God's chosen ruler, the human link between heaven and earth. So, obviously, your dreams weren't just dreams. They were messages. You weren't just curling up for rest. You were diving into divine correspondence. But here's the kicker. You probably won't survive this. Not the assassins, not the backstabbing nephews, not the food tasters who just might get bribed. Sure, you got 100 pillows. You've got peacock guards. But you've also got enemies who are very creative and who know that the best time to strike is when Emperor is blissfully asleep under 40 pounds of scented linen. And still you rest, because tomorrow is another day of blessing bishops, signing decrees, feeding palace leopards, and pretending your cousin's execution wasn't your idea. So for now, you pull that final velvet blanket over your chest, breathe in the scent of crushed lilies and cedar ash, and try, just try, to get some sleep beneath a ceiling painted with a fresco of Christ Pantocrator gazing down at you with something between divine mercy and exhaustion. You wake, not to the chirp of a rooster or the soft rustle of leaves, but to the ceremonial cough of a eunuch who's been trained to clear his throat at precisely the same time every morning. For the past 22 years, the air is warm but heavy, soaked with incense from a censer still swinging on its bronze chain near your bed. The scent, amber and frankincense with a hint of something musky, is meant to remind you of heaven, though to your half-dreaming mind, it mostly smells like someone burned a holy scroll. Your head sinks slightly deeper into the pillow beneath you. Number 36, if you're counting, the one stuffed with down from Anatolian goslings, said to soften the mind for political diplomacy. You doubt it works. You still want to scream at half your generals. As your eyes adjust to the dim chamber, you realize something absurd. Your 100 pillows have shifted in the night. One has fallen to the floor like a deposed noble. Another lies sideways, exposing its silken underbelly. You wonder, was it a restless toss? A divine visitation? Or did one of the chamber servants adjust them in secret? You'll never know. That's the thing with these pillows. They're not just cushions. They're ceremonial landmarks, political props, medicinal apparatuses, and occasionally passive-aggressive tools of sabotage. You start to rise, and immediately your hand lands on pillow 12, the civic duty pillow, embroidered with a miniature scene of you offering bread to the poor. It was placed there last week after a tense Senate meeting, a subtle reminder from your advisors to perform more public charity. Pillows as moral guidance. Welcome to the empire. Now, let's get real. Why 100 pillows? Why not 20? 50? The answer is layered, literally. Byzantine culture thrived on tiers, social, spiritual, architectural. The layering of pillows was a direct metaphor for imperial elevation. Your body was to rest at the pinnacle of a soft, symbolic pyramid. Each layer brought you closer to the divine, farther from the filth of earthly matters like taxes, plague, or angry mobs. Think of it as a vertical hierarchy of holiness, with your spine aligned along its royal axis. Some pillows bore political weight, literally and figuratively. There were the diplomatic pillows, stitched by handmaids from foreign courts and gifted during tense treaties. You had one from a Persian envoy, stuffed with silk and tiny bells that jingled if you moved in your sleep. A Bulgarian pillow made of horsehair, which you never used, partly out of distrust and partly because it smelled like regret. Then there were the heirloom pillows, passed down from emperor to emperor like fluffy relics of state. Pillow 77, for example, is said to contain thread from Constantine the Great's cloak, although modern historians eye roll that claim pretty hard. And then there's the fact that some emperors just really like being comfortable. Take Constantine VII, who allegedly spent more time in bed than in the council chamber. His personal physician recorded in one surviving note that the emperor acquired a cushioning ecosystem to support his digestion, his dreams, and his divine meditation. The man was basically marinating in opulence. Was it health or laziness? Historians still argue whether Constantine's pillow habits were driven by illness, spirituality, or just an emperor-level addiction to feathered luxury. Let's not ignore the medical side. In a world without modern mattresses, ergonomics was a serious concern. Pillows were used to elevate legs for circulation, support the back after horseback riding, and ease the side effects of imperial diets heavy in figs, eels, and wine. You didn't just lie down. You were arranged like a sacred mosaic. One under the knees to support liver chi, according to court physicians who dabbled in borrowed Greek humoral theory. Two behind the shoulders to align your spine for better prophetic dreaming, one beneath each elbow, to prevent nerve disruption. Yes, the Byzantine sleep position was closer to orthopedic origami than relaxation. You lie back and glance to your left. There it is, Pillow 32, the rhetorical pillow, scented faintly with mint and fennel. Used to stimulate clarity of speech. Before speeches or public appearances, you are meant to rest your cheek on it for precisely 27 minutes, while monks whisper verses of St. Basil in the background. Effective? Questionable. But if you gave a good speech, the pillow got the credit. If you fumbled, someone blamed the servants for misplacing it. Even the fabrics mattered. Some were woven from silk spun by blind nuns on Mount Olympus. Legend said their touch was purer. Others used dyed wool so richly hued it took 3 vats of imported Tyrian purple to finish one panel. You had to be careful not to bleed on them, though, not because of any religious taboo, but because cleaning purple-dyed silk was more expensive than rebuilding a chapel. And now for a tidbit so Nietzsche feels made up. One emperor, Michael III, the so-called drunkard, is rumored to have had a favorite pillow stuffed with moss gathered only from olive groves blessed by monks. This blessed moss pillow was so adored that he ordered 2 guards to watch it during Lent. Apparently, even abstinence had limits. Not every pillow was purely personal. Some were strategic, like Pillow 60, placed behind your lower back and sewn with a tiny prayer for victory. You'd sleep on it the night before any major decree. Pillow 22 was the spousal truce pillow used to signal you were ready to reconcile with the Empress after a fight. You left it on the shared corner of the bed, embroidered side up. If she accepted, it would be replaced in the morning with Pillow 23, the reconciliation bolster. It's like texting but fluffier. And while we're here, let's talk about pillow politics. You had courtiers lobbying for pillow inclusion. One noblewoman claimed her ancestral pillow had healing properties and should be part of the imperial bed for Lent. Another bishop insisted on gifting you a liturgical cushion woven with prayers that activated during REM sleep. You smiled, accepted them all, and then relegated most of the side chamber known to staff as the pillow dungeon. Still, publicly displaying one of these pillows, even briefly, could solidify an alliance, start a rumor, or defuse a rebellion. Think about that next time you fluff your throw pillows. And of course, not all emperors found peace under such plush scrutiny. Some fidgeted, some complained of heat, some demanded ice pack linens. Others insisted on changing the order of pillows nightly to confuse evil spirits. One emperor allegedly rotated the entire bed 90 degrees each evening, believing it would disorient demons. Whether it worked is unclear, but the servants hated it. Now, as you prepare to finally rise from your pillow throne, take one last glance at this ridiculous, marvelous bed, a topographical map of imperial anxiety, medical belief, and aesthetic overkill. It is, in its way, a symbol of everything Byzantine. Layered, opulent, contradictory, and somehow still functioning under a logic only the emperor understood. You're barely upright, and already someone is sprinkling holy water in your direction. It's not an exorcism. Probably, it's just your morning blessing. Because in this empire, you don't just wake up. You emerge. You rise like the sun, or a minor resurrection, and the people around you treat it accordingly. A priest murmurs scripture as another servant dabs your wrists with rose water, while a eunuch holds up a golden hand mirror, so you can examine your face for divine messages. That mole on your cheek, it might mean your enemies will soon be vanquished, or that you're constipated. Depends which cleric you ask. Your bed, a still warm mound of ecclesiastical upholstery, glows in the morning light like some velvet-draped altar. You glance back at it before stepping onto the embroidered rug beneath your feet, which, fun fact, was woven with exactly 365 knots to remind you of the daily passage of time, because nothing in this palace is just aesthetic. And tonight, when you return to that bed, it won't be to collapse in exhaustion like some low-born merchant. Oh no, you'll enter it again like a priest approaching the sanctuary, because sleep in Byzantium isn't downtime, it's sacred territory. You walk through a corridor of mosaic saints who eye you knowingly. They know what's coming. You're headed to a small private chapel, your morning ritual. Inside, it's dark, cool, and thick with incense. The priest reads aloud a dream you had last week, One you described in hazy detail to your spiritual advisor. Something about a flaming wheel and a bleeding figure. He nods gravely. The fig represents fertility, or treason. Historians still argue whether Byzantine dream interpretation leaned more mystical or manipulative, but either way, your dreams are under review. In fact, there's a monk assigned only to tracking and interpreting your sleep. His parchment stacks are growing. So is your anxiety. Because here's the problem. If dreams are divine messages, you're expected to act on them. Did you see yourself bathing in a silver river? That might mean you're about to be blessed with prosperity or drowned in debt. A lion standing over your bed, protection from your enemies, or a reminder to be less lazy. You're the emperor, yes, but you're also a vessel, a prophet, a cosmic weather vane. So when you return to bed at night, it's not about snoring your way to sunrise. It's about preparing to receive revelation. The Empire has rules for this, of course. You're encouraged to fast before sleep on nights of divine inquiry. You wear specific robes, white, simple, embroidered only with the Chiro symbol, and you're expected to lie facing east toward Jerusalem, so that your dreams might channel holier winds. This is known as orthos hypnos, or righteous sleep. Sounds peaceful? It's not. It's pressure. You lie there like a bishop in velvet chains, hoping for visions and dreading silence. Because no dream? That could be a sign too. A sign that God has nothing more to say to you. Yikes. You shift among your pillows. There's a specific one for dream clarity, stuffed with chamomile and olive leaves. Some say placing a scrap of holy scripture inside boosts vision accuracy. Others swear by rubbing blessed oil on your temples before bed. You've done both. You've also tried fasting, whispering psalms, and once, though you'd never admit it, a spell from an old widow who claimed to have once cured a bishop of chronic nightmares using goat milk and salt. You drank it. You still had nightmares. But at least they were vivid. There's a growing tradition now, in your court, to document all prophetic dreams. A scroll is kept beside your bed, and a scribe listens from an adjoining chamber. If you speak in your sleep, he writes. If you stir and mutter, he documents the words phonetically. These transcripts are reviewed weekly by the spiritual council, who argue over symbolism like students at a theology debate. One time, you dreamed you were chased by bees. The interpretations included divine wrath, foreign invasion, and digestive imbalance. You canceled a border treaty just to be safe. Your chancellor still brings it up. You might be wondering, were all emperors as obsessed with sleep prophecy? No, but the ones who weren't didn't last long. In a culture where the emperor is believed to be both chosen and watched by God, his dreams become political documents. They carry weight. There's even a recorded incident where a faction tried to discredit an emperor by forging a fake dream transcript, accusing him of dreaming about eating pork on a fast day. Pillow treason. That's how far this goes. Of course, not all dreams are divine. Some are disturbing. You once woke gasping from a vision of Constantinople engulfed in fog, the sound of bells swallowed by silence. You mentioned it to a monk. He suggested a full liturgical exorcism of the bedchamber. You allowed it. It involved chanting, water sprinkling, the burning of 6 types of incense, and, briefly, a live dove. The pillows were rearranged in a new formation meant to break demonic circuits. You slept terribly. But this brings us to an interesting side note. Did you know that some emperors hired professional dreamers? Yes, actual people whose job it was to sleep and report visions. These oneirokritae, or dream decoders, were sometimes believed to be spiritually sensitive oracles. They'd sleep near your chamber, ideally on a low bed of unadorned linen, to attract raw prophecy. If they dreamed something important, you were informed at breakfast. Sometimes they did. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they made it up. Historians still argue whether these dreamers were truly mystical or just very well-fed con artists. And what about the Empress? Oh, she's dreaming too. But hers are private. Her pillow chamber is separate, although occasionally shared on high feast days or state festivals meant to represent unity. When she dreams of fire or fruit or falling birds, her confessor listens. Sometimes her dreams even outrank yours. It depends who the clergy side with that week. Now, here's a detail. Even the scrolls rarely mention. The emperor's bed itself was sometimes used for incubation. This was a practice where sick or spiritually blocked individuals would be allowed to lie briefly on the imperial mattress, often on the lower corners, to absorb divine healing energy, only with permission, of course, and only under strict rules. Some claim miracles, others just stole the pillowcases. And then there's the strangest recurring belief that the more pillows you had, the more protected your soul became, as if evil spirits, demons, or jealous cousins couldn't breach a wall of 100 pillows. It sounds silly until you remember this is a world where saints' bones are kept in glass boxes to cure droughts. 100 pillows? Perfectly reasonable. One emperor even insisted that each pillow be blessed monthly. Every last one. That poor priest. As the candlelight dims in your mind's eye, picture yourself back under those layers. Your limbs just barely heavy, your thoughts slowing. The sounds of the palace are fading. The mosaic saints watch from the walls, silent now, their expressions unreadable. A breeze lifts one silk curtain just slightly, revealing the full moon above the Bosphorus. You close your eyes, not in fatigue, but in readiness. Because your sleep tonight, it isn't just rest. It's the next chapter of a divine conversation. You lie there, perfectly still, as if any movement might disrupt the invisible threads connecting your soul to heaven. Your breath settles into a rhythm only slightly faster than the flutter of the peacock feathers at the foot of your bed. Ah, yes, the peacocks. You almost forgot they were there, trained to detect intruders, gifted with imperial bracelets, so they glitter in the moonlight, and most importantly, known to raise a racket if someone so much as thought about drawing a dagger near your royal ribs. You wouldn't call them cuddly, but they're good company once you get past the shrieking. Still, you sleep lightly, because no matter how plush your pillows or sacred your sheets, there's always a eunuch in the corner, watching you breathe like a ghostly nanny with zero bedtime boundaries. Your head shifts slightly onto a different pillow, number 48. You know it by feel, firmer than most, with a strange, dry scent. It's the one filled with lavender, myrrh, and thin strips of parchment, inscribed with protective prayers. Some say it's overkill. Others say it's the only reason you survived 6 assassination plots. You believe it because you need to believe something when your enemies include your cousins, your generals, and that one court musician who definitely blinked too slowly at dinner. But it's not just your life that these pillows protect. It's your health. Your imperial physician insists on it. He's a gaunt, wide-eyed man who speaks in rhyming proverbs and treats every sneeze like a declaration of civil war. He once prescribed a pillow filled with shaved marble dust to cool the emperor's blood. Another time, it was crushed pearl mixed with mint to awaken the solar humors. That one gave you neck pain for a week, but he swore it balanced your bile. You nodded. You demoted him to pulse check duty. He still sends pillow suggestions via wax-sealed scrolls. You're not alone in this either. The entire Byzantine medical tradition leaned heavily on sleep positioning, pillow content, and what modern science would call wishful thinking. Remember, this is a world where a diagram of your bodily fluids was taken as seriously as a tax ledger. Hot bile? Try a goose feather pillow with rose oil. Cold phlegm? Wool stuffed cushions and basil leaves. One emperor supposedly had a dedicated night shift of fluffers who rotated the pillows every 2 hours to keep his energetic flow uninterrupted. Makes your Tempur-Pedic look like peasant tech, doesn't it? And the materials. Oh, the variety would make a royal upholsterer weep with pride. You had pillows stuffed with swan down, goat hair, rose petals, reeds, camel wool, shredded parchment, and on one bizarre occasion, imported Mongolian snow moss, said to induce clairvoyant dreams. It didn't. You woke up babbling about fish with antlers. The court jester turned it into a play. It was surprisingly well reviewed. Some pillows had hidden compartments, little slits in the seams where secret notes could be stashed, often folded in wax linen to prevent sweat damage. Pillow 21, for instance, has hosted everything from love letters to poison warnings. You once found a tiny icon of St. George tucked inside, accompanied by a slip of parchment that simply read, "Trust a woman with the cough." You still haven't figured that one out, but you now pay closer attention when the Empress clears her throat. Speaking of trust, your pillows are guarded. Literally. The elite eunuch guards, known as the cubicularioi, are responsible for maintaining the sanctity of your sleeping space. Each evening, they inspect the pillow arrangement for signs of tampering. They weigh certain pillows to gram. One even licks them. You don't ask questions anymore. These men have been known to detect assassins by noticing that pillow 78 was slightly off-center. It's both impressive and deeply unsettling. There's a reason for the paranoia. Your bed, after all, is the one place you're supposed to be vulnerable, and that makes it the perfect place for murder. You remember the story of Emperor Nicephorus II Phocas, who forbade even his wife from entering his chamber without guards. Too bad the assassins came anyway. They slipped in, aided by a disloyal eunuch, and killed him right there, ironically on the same bed he once bragged was death-proof. Historians still argue whether he was smothered, stabbed, or both. The only thing certain, his pillow count was 97. So naturally, you've taken extra precautions. Some pillows are filled with cedar bark and vinegar-soaked wool to repel insects and, allegedly, demons. Others have tiny bronze charms sewn into the corners. You even commission a special guardian pillow. Number 72, blessed by every major cleric in city. It radiates the confidence of a child's nightlight and the spiritual weight of a cathedral. You've never actually used it, but its presence alone helps you sleep. And let's not ignore the fluff hierarchy. Not all pillows are created equal. The topmost 12, arranged in a crescent around your head, are purely ceremonial. They bear the imperial crest, gold thread, and are regularly dusted by someone whose official title is Pillow Attendant to His Holiness. Below them are the mid-tier pillows, comfort-focused, functional, rotated seasonally. Then the base layer, structural, often firm, some even made of carved under a linen wrap. These aren't for comfort. They're for spine alignment and, supposedly, soul grounding. Fall off this setup? Congratulations! You've tumbled through 15 layers of theology, medicine, and superstition. But the most interesting pillow might be the one you don't touch. Number 99. It sits on a small table beside your bed, untouched, unread, uncrumpled. It is a decoy pillow. Its purpose? To test whether anyone's been in your chamber. Every night it's dusted with powdered alabaster, so fine that even the brush of a sleeve would mark it. Every morning it's examined. If the powder is disturbed, the chamber is locked. The staff questioned. You pretend to nap while guards investigate. And one time, it did catch someone, a page boy, foolish and greedy, sneaking into a room to borrow a silk coverlet for his sweetheart. He wasn't executed, just reassigned to latrine inventory duty. For life. Now we come to the fringiest fringe belief of all, that dreams travel through pillows. Yes, travel. The idea is that dreams are spiritual vibrations, and that soft materials can store or even pass on these energies. So, if a saint once rested on a pillow, even briefly, then some trace of his holiness remains. You collected a few of these relic pillows. One allegedly touched the face of St. John Chrysostom. Another supposedly absorbed the dying breath of a righteous bishop. You've never dared rest on them, but you keep them close, because you never know when you'll need a second-hand miracle. You finally close your eyes again, shifting slightly as a gentle breeze slides across the room, cooled by ceramic jugs filled with ice and hung in linen sacks from the ceiling. A primitive air conditioning system, sure, but surprisingly effective. You breathe in deep. Beneath you, 40 different materials cradle your body. Around you, bird shimmer. Eunuchs stand watch. Priests murmur. And through it all, you're left with the strangest sensation that you're not sleeping, but being slept through, as if the empire, God, and time itself are dreaming you. Your throat feels dry when you wake, but you dare not reach for water. First, you must be inspected. A young eunuch hovers at your bedside, holding a soft cloth scented with lemon balm pressed lightly against your forehead. He checks for signs of fever, excessive sweat, or what he calls the night flush, a faint pinkness that supposedly signals demonic interference. You find this absurd. You also find it oddly reassuring. In Byzantium, your body isn't just your own. It's a living relic, a political barometer, and a medical mystery all rolled into one heavily perfumed package. And if your skin glows too red under the morning light, someone's lighting incense. Again, you try to sit up. You can't. That's because a pillow the size of a dog has been wedged under your knees during the night. The physician insisted it aligns your golden nerve. You doubt the golden nerve exists. He says you'll thank him when you're 80 and still spry. You're 37 and already feel like a soggy scroll. You motion for a servant to remove the knee bolster. He does so with reverent fingers, as if he's lifting the Ark of the Covenant. You wonder, not for first time, if maybe you become allergic to reverence. Today's agenda includes a military report, 2 ambassadorial audiences, and a pigeon that's been sent from the western frontier with what the handlers call an unsettling message. But none of that matters if your health falters. You're the emperor. You don't get sick, you are sickness. Or at least, that's how the court physicians treat it. A sore throat, and you means a potential famine. A cough? Political instability. Which is probably why you're currently being examined by 3 grown men, one of whom is shaking a dry gourd over your chest and listening for evil humors. The imperial bedroom, though beautiful, is basically a clinic with fresher linens. Gold-framed mirrors reflect your pale complexion back at you, and someone's already laid out today's scent pillow, a flat silk cushion lightly soaked with a blend of thyme, vinegar, and something mysterious they only call Constantine's breath. It's supposed to stimulate blood flow. You call it spicy mildew. Still, you lie your head on it and wait for the tingle that the apothecary promised. Nothing. Your left ear goes numb instead. Great. Let's talk about these court physicians for a second. They're not your average herb collectors. They are philosopher medics, trained in ancient Greek theory, updated with Arabic translations, and deeply superstitious. One has memorized the entire Corpus Hippocraticum. Another believes sneezing during a solar eclipse indicates liver decay. They argue, constantly, over bowel ratios, over pulse rhythms, over whether a dream of floating means your kidneys are weak. Historians still argue whether these court physicians were more learned and effective, or simply very poetic hypochondriacs in robes. You, meanwhile, are surrounded by pillows. A new one appears each week. There's the anti-phlegm bolster, the gout-softening foot pad, and of course, the dream-enhancing forehead mini-pillow, which the monks fill with sand from Mount Sinai. It's supposed to anchor your soul during astral travel. It's about as comfortable as sleeping on regret. Then there are the temperature pillows. You didn't think pillows could be seasonal? Think again. Summer pillows are stuffed with mulberry bark and rose petals, sometimes even bits of shaved horn to cool the spine. Winter pillows use wool, sage bundles, and sometimes heated clay discs slipped into secret pockets. You've burned yourself on those discs more than once. You yelled the first time. Now you just mutter and demand better linen wrapping. But perhaps the strangest moment in your pillow medical journey came 2 years ago. You developed what they delicately referred to as imperial bloating, caused, they claimed, by an imbalance of moist and dry elements in the lower stomach. Their solution? Pillow fasting. For 3 nights, you slept on a bare wooden board covered only by a strip of goat hide. You were told this would force the air to escape from your body through dreams. It did not. You just didn't sleep, and your back hurt for weeks. But the monks were thrilled. They said your dreams were cleansed by suffering. You said nothing. You were too tired. Another quirk. Each major feast day requires different sleep conditions. During Lent, for example, you are expected to sleep closer to the floor. Spiritually speaking, of course, this means a reduction in pillow count, down to 85. You protest. That's barely a mattress. But rules are rules. You comply, and each year you wake up more grumpy and less enlightened. And then there's the pillow known as the test pillow. Oh, yes, it sounds innocent enough, but this thing is terrifying. Every month, your main physician introduces a new blend of herbs, minerals, or fabrics and places it beneath your neck. He observes you overnight. Well, the eunuchs do, and notes any changes in mood, speech, digestion, or dreams. If you wake up feeling buoyant, he considers the pillow a success. If you wake up talking nonsense or screaming about firebirds again, it's burned in a courtyard ceremony and banned forever. You once asked what was in the worst one. Crushed nettle, fennel seed, and dried eel spine, he said. You laughed. He didn't. Despite all this, your subjects see you as radiant, healthy, chosen. That's the magic of Byzantine optics. While inside you feel like a stitched-together experiment of feathers and prayers, outside you're presented as serene, deified, and always one good nap away from another century of rule. They never see the under-eye bags. That's what the eye pillows are for, yes. Tiny beanbag-like pouches soaked in milk and lavender. Applied twice daily. Your cosmetic eunuch swears by them. Even your chamber doors whisper health advice. They're etched with maxims in Greek. He who sleeps well rules wisely. The body is a temple. Do not let it collapse. Avoid figs after sunset. You ignored that last one once. It was a mistake. And now, of course, let's not forget that other peculiar pillow. The one you never touch. Pillow 100. It's placed near your feet, never beneath your body. It's stitched in dark blue velvet with gold thread, and it bears a single embroidered word, Eshidin. The end. It's a memento mori, a soft reminder that even emperors sleep their last sleep. No one says it aloud, but everyone knows. One day, that pillow will move to your head. The rest will be stripped away. That one will remain. The tradition? On the morning of your death. If it's peaceful, the chamberlain will place pillow 100 beneath your crown and display your body in state. If it's not peaceful, say via poison or stabby family drama, they place on your chest anyway, to symbolize the peace that should have been. You've seen this done. You once stared at the emperor's still face, resting on that pillow, and thought to yourself, it really doesn't look comfortable. You still think that, but you allow it to stay near your feet, just in case. So you rise, stiff but strangely satisfied. You survived another night beneath 100 anxious cushions. You've dodged assassins, dreams, blood imbalance, and lavender-scented paranoia. And tonight, you'll do it all again. Because for a Byzantine emperor, the bed is never just a bed. It's a battlefield, a clinic, a temple, and sometimes a confessional. You know it before you even open your eyes. The room feels different. Not colder, not louder, just off. There's a wrongness in the air, like a painting hung half a degree crooked. You don't hear the usual flick of sandals or the gentle clink of incense chains. Even the peacocks outside your chamber are quiet. Too quiet. That's the first clue. The second, pillow 16, is missing. You sit up slowly, heart already tapping out a warning in your ribs. 16 is the correspondence pillow, the one where secret messages are tucked inside the hem, folded into tiny squares and scented faintly with juniper. It was there last night. You remember brushing your fingers against it before sleep, checking for fresh weight. It's gone now. You scan the chamber. No overturned lamps, no sign of a break-in. But something's wrong, and you don't need a prophetic dream to tell you this isn't a good morning. Because here's the dirty little truth of palace life. Your bed is the safest and most dangerous place in the empire. Everyone knows you're at your most vulnerable here. Drowsy, undressed, horizontal. And so it becomes a perfect setting for espionage. Assassins rarely charge to the front gates with swords swinging. No, they bribe the linen washer. They replace the stuffing in pillow 29 with a strangling cord. Or they poison pillow 35's perfume sachet, so your dreams end not with divine revelations, but with paralysis. The only real question each morning is, who didn't try to kill you while you snored? Spies in the court? That's expected. Spies in your pillow arrangement? That's artistry. See, the Byzantine court wasn't just a snake pit. It was a snake pit that paid its snakes in silken titles. Everyone spying on everyone. Your spy master has spies watching his own family. The empress has her own intelligence circle, cloaked in religious charity. Even your confessor sends coded notes in the margins of your prayer books. And if a courtier wants to smuggle a message, the safest route isn't parchment, it's pillow. You learn that the hard way. Flashback. 3 winters ago, you found a silver needle sewn into the seam of a gift pillow from a Bulgarian envoy. It was positioned perfectly to prick your neck if you slept facing left. It wasn't just a needle, it was poisoned. Mildly. Enough to slow your heart. not stop it. You survived. You never confronted the envoy. Instead, you sent him home with a pillow of your own, stuffed with fig leaves and embroidered with a saying about fruits rotting from the inside. He got the message. Some pillows are decoys placed for distraction. Others are surveillance tools. Pillow 42, for example, contains a whisper disc, an odd bit of bronze acoustics designed to amplify murmurs spoken nearby. You didn't invent it. You found it, hidden, inside your bed, by someone else. It's still there. You keep it as a reminder. And then there's the infamous night of the thread. Word had reached you. Vague rumors that someone had stitched an assassination note inside a ceremonial pillow. No parchment, just black silk thread, looped and knotted in a language known only to a few in the court. It was meant for the Empress's eyes, meant to declare you unfit, meant to end your reign in whispers and allegory. You never found it, but you did find 3 pillows with their threads snipped. You had them burned in a silver brazier, while the court watched, wide-eyed. Sometimes a performance is the punishment, because this bed, this fortress of fluff, it has ears. Every corner of your sleeping space could be a hiding place. Remember Pillow 80? The one used for back support? Someone once slid a shard of obsidian beneath it, wrapped in goat hide. It was a fragment of a curse tablet, ancient, cracked, and smeared in chicken blood. To dim his sight, dull his senses, and scatter his line, it read, subtle, charming. You had it dissolved in holy water, and the resulting slurry poured into the palace well, just to be safe. Historians still argue whether Byzantine espionage was more symbolic or effective, whether a poison perfume puff was truly lethal or merely psychological warfare. But in your world, the effect is the same. Trust phrase like overwash linen. You start to wonder, did the Empress sigh in her sleep or signal? Did your brother send a feather-stuffed piece offering or a warning? And here's where it gets ridiculous. There's a whole pillow language. A court code, really. Gifting someone a blue pillow meant friendship. Yellow signified ambition. A black pillow? That was an accusation. Or worse, an omen. If someone gave you a red pillow filled with crushed basil and rosewood, it was considered a declaration of war. You once received one from a general who smiled too broadly at dinner. He died of illness 6 months later. Very unfortunate. Very tidy. You know about all of this because you play the game too. You've sent pillows. You've coded messages. You once had a message stitched in lemon-colored thread, only visible under direct sunlight, onto the lining of a cushion gifted to the patriarch. It read, "Bless the Emperor's war," or "Find yourself sleeping in the street." He blessed it, enthusiastically. Tonight, as you lie back, eyes half closed, you wonder how many people are watching your pillows as closely as your face. A new one arrived this afternoon. Ivory silk, featherlight, stitched with gold stars. A gift from your cousin, who claims it was blessed by monks in Cappadocia. You believe him. You also believe he wants your throne. So, you haven't used it. You place it on a side table, facing the window, letting it soak in moonlight and speculation. If someone asks, you say it's too beautiful to use. But the truth? You're waiting for it to blink. And all the while, your guards inspect. One man's entire job is to sit near the base of your bed and measure the indentation of your pillows when you rise, checking for unnatural depressions. He once claimed Pillow 12 had been tampered with by a spirit. You nodded. You double his salary. Fear, after all, makes the best security system. The Empress? She has her own security methods. Rumor has it she sleeps with a dagger beneath her own pillow. You've never asked. You're afraid she'll answer. Still you sleep, because you must. Because tomorrow there are taxes to sign, basilicas to fund, enemies to forgive or at least smile at, and wars to plan. But the true battle, the one you fight nightly, is waged on thread count and faith. You rest your head against a wall of secrets, surrounded by the scent of dried sage and suspicion, and wonder whether the down beneath your cheek will cushion your dreams or betray them. This is the price of rule in Byzantium. You may wear purple, eat figs from golden forks, and sleep beneath stars painted on your ceiling. But you are never alone. Not truly. Someone is always watching, always listening, always wondering if your next dream will be your last. You stretch, slowly, luxuriously, pretending, just for a moment, that your body isn't stiff with caution, and your neck isn't sore from sleeping at a 45-degree angle on what the apothecary calls a spinal serenity pillow. A gift from the Empress. No less. Stuffed with crushed amber, and something that might be salt or powdered bone. It smells like old sunlight and regret. You don't ask questions anymore. You just turn your head carefully, hoping the stiffness is from age and not that slow curse the patriarch hinted at last week. The curtains part. Not for sunlight, heavens no. Direct sun might touch your skin and upset your sacred aura. But for the pre-sunrise inspection team, you count them by sound. Soft steps, papyrus rustle. The metallic click of incense holders being swung by trembling hands. The bed is examined. The pillows are documented. And you, imperial centerpiece of this feathered altar, are presented like a relic, one eyelid at a time. This isn't pampering. This is bureaucracy. A Byzantine emperor's bed is subject to protocol, so dense it makes the tax code look like a child's riddle. The pillow office, yes, that's real, maintains a ledger thicker than scripture. Every pillow has a name, a rotation schedule, a designated use, and a politically relevant backstory. Pillow 24, donated by a Coptic bishop during the corn riots. Pillow 81, woven from fibers harvested by nuns who allegedly wept while spinning. You're pretty sure that last one was exaggerated. But hey, a good story fluffs better than goose down. Each pillow is tagged, subtly of course, with a silk-threaded loop embroidered with a sigil indicating class, placement, and blessing status. Yes, blessing status. Some are triple blessed, others only once, and some are pending, waiting for a visiting bishop to say the necessary prayers. You once made the mistake of sleeping on a pending pillow. You dreamed of weeping statues and a horse-sized wasp. Never again. You shift your weight and notice the pillows moving beneath you, not collapsing, but adjusting. That's thanks to a set of tiny wooden slats embedded in the bottom layer, designed to redistribute pressure. The engineers call it a lattice dream foundation. You call it squeaky geometry. But it works. Mostly. Unless the humidity rises and then it swells, and you spend half the night feeling like you're being pushed uphill. Now, a eunuch kneels and reads your sleep report aloud. Yes, a sleep report. Compiled by 2 monks and 1 very discreet astrologer. It includes everything from your dream murmur phrases to the angle at which your left foot twitched. Apparently, at 2:14 a.m., you said the word olive. This is interpreted as a sign of either impending peace or severe gastric imbalance. The monks are split. Historians still argue whether Byzantine emperors truly believe these nightly reports or just perform the pageantry out of habit. You've learned to nod solemnly, regardless of content, even when the report says you snored in iambic pentameter. Today is Thursday. You remember this because Thursday pillows are blue trimmed with gold corner tassels. Fridays are silver-edged. Sundays are embroidered with scenes from your own coronation, an idea your mother had during your second bout of measles. They're meant to inspire gratitude. You usually flip them over. And here comes the Logothetes 2 Katonos, the Lord of the Bedchamber. A title that sounds charming until you realize he outranks half your military council and has veto power over pillow placement. He bows deeply, then presents the day's schedule of reclining. Because sleep is not a singular event, it is structured. Nap options, resting periods, contemplative recline times, and post-meal stretches are mapped out with priestly precision. Today you're allotted 3 brief reclines and 1 liturgical rest, which requires you to lie at a 27-degree angle while listening to a reading from the Psalms. It's supposed to realign your spiritual pulse. Mostly it makes your butt go numb, but it's not just about comfort. It's about symbolism. The imperial bed is a stage, a signal, a tool. If you recline at midday in the central solar chamber, it implies divine confidence. Reclining in the shaded corner suite, mourning or modesty. You once shifted your nap location and accidentally triggered a week-long fast across 3 provinces. That's the power of posture. Let's not forget the ritual public recline. On major feast days, you are expected to lie in state, not dead, just dramatically still, on a raised dais surrounded by symbolic pillows. Each represents a virtue: mercy, wisdom, justice, humility. One represents silence, which is awkward, because people are usually praying aloud. You lie there unmoving, while choirs chant and bishops swing thuribles over your body like you're a holy pie. The people adore it. The Empress calls it the nap of vanity. She's not wrong. You once tried to remove 5 pillows from the standard stack. Just 5. The Chamberlain panicked. The astrologer wept. The bishop muttered something about apocalyptic alignment. You put them back, slowly, while chewing dried figs and contemplating how much easier life would be if you were a shepherd. And yet deep down, you know this absurdity matters. Because the court watches. The people whisper. Your enemies take note. If you change the bedspread from red to green, rumors spread that you favor a certain political faction. If you lie on your left side 3 nights in a row, someone writes a pamphlet speculating about your loyalties to Egypt. If you frown during pillow blessing, well, better hope the tax clerks don't take it personally. There's a new trend now: pillow processions. Every full moon, the high-ranking members of the court bring symbolic pillows to the palace chapel, offering them at the altar. Some are inscribed with prayers, others with political slogans masked as poetic verse. May the Emperor's dream soar is actually a call for expanding naval funding. You keep them all. Some you even sleep on, just to keep everyone guessing. You remember when you were a child, visiting the imperial bed for the first time. You laughed. It looked like a fortress made of clouds. Then you tripped on a corner bolster and knocked over an icon stand. 3 bishops fainted. You cried. They blamed a demon. Good times. Now, you lie still and let the gravity of it all press down, not the weight of pillows, but of legacy. Each cushion, each embroidered virtue, each strategically placed sachet of cedar dust is part of an image carefully cultivated over centuries. You are not just a man who sleeps. You are a monarch who reclines, a sovereign whose spinal alignment could determine the fate of a province. And finally, as the sunlight begins to peer through the lattice windows, diffused just enough to make your chamber glow like the inside of a golden reliquary, you feel it, that moment of stillness when the world outside ceases to matter, when the bureaucracy fades and you're left with nothing but your breath, the faint scent of rosemary, and the murmur of the priest praying for your rest. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to be seen sleeping. And in Byzantium, that's often more important than actual rest. Evening has fallen again, and the ceremonial torches flicker like nervous thoughts along the corridor walls. You're not walking tonight. You're being carried, reclining slightly in your evening litter. You move like a slow parade float of authority, flanked by whispering advisors and cautious eunuchs. The procession isn't for show. It's a ritual. Each step toward your chamber must pass under carved arches representing virtues. You're meant to enter sleep the same way a priest enters a sanctuary. Clean, humbled, and only mildly constipated from fasting on dried figs. Inside, the palace is dimmed into hush. Incense coils in the corners like sacred fog, and somewhere, someone plucks a single string on a lyre every 6 seconds to soothe the emperor's mood. You feel like a baby swaddled in a theology exam. But here's the thing. After all the divine signs, the prophecies, the pillows of basil and balancing silk, you started to wonder, is this all protection or performance? Because the final truth behind your 100-pillow bed is this. It's not just about sleep. It's about staging. You don't merely dream. You broadcast. Every night is theater. And your bed, a sacred platform. A soft, scented signal to the empire that the center holds. That the emperor reclines. That all is well. So even if your back aches and your dreams feature too many goats with human teeth, you go through the motions. Because Byzantium doesn't sleep unless you do. Let's look at the full construction again. Beneath the pillows, layers of cedar planks. Beneath those, an elevated stone slab, not for comfort, but symbolism. Stone is permanence, eternal rule. Even your slumber rests on something unyielding. The mattress itself is stuffed with camel hair, horsehair reeds, and soft goat wool, engineered for posture and for prestige. Too soft would mean decadence. Too firm? Cruelty. It has to be the Goldilocks of governance. Your pillow configuration, at its final, nighttime arrangement, is symmetrical in a way that would make mathematicians sob with joy. 5 primary layers: base, support, fragrance, vision, and crown. The base keeps your spine aligned, 16 thick, triangular bolsters. The support layer is softer, mostly swan feathers, positioned along the body's natural curvatures. Then the fragrance layer, sachets and thin cushions stuffed with herbs. Lavender for peace, sage for wisdom, and thyme to ward off night spirits. Then comes a vision layer, your dream pillows. 40 of them, each one slightly different, rotated weekly, blessed monthly. Some of them have been used by 3 generations of emperors. One is rumored to contain a hair from Constantine's own beard. And finally, the crown layer, 7 pillows forming a halo around your head. Not under it, around it. They're ceremonial, thick with embroidery and religious iconography. Gold thread, tiny jewels, hand-stitched verses from John's Gospel. They do nothing for your neck support. They are entirely there to suggest that even in sleep, you are ringed with holiness. You recline now, attendants busying themselves with the nightly rituals. One applies a cooling oil to your temples. Another gently wipes your eyelids with cloth dipped in holy water from Mount Athos. A third checks your pulse. Again, he's always worried. He once insisted that if your heartbeat slowed too much during sleep, the empire would tilt off its axis. You humored him by letting him sleep in your chamber for a week. He snored loudly. You demoted him to secondary elbow physician. Your eyes close, not from fatigue, but rhythm. This is how you ease into the dream ritual. The chant begins, 5 voices in harmony, reciting verses from the Psalms. Your bed feels lighter somehow. Not weightless, but lifted. A little divine puppetry. Maybe, or maybe it's just a soft shifting of 100 layers of stuffing adjusting to your breath. Your dream will be recorded, of course. One scribe sits in the alcove behind a screen. He has a quill, fresh parchment, and an oil lamp trimmed low, so the scratching won't disturb you. He documents your breathing, mutterings, changes in posture. Once, he claimed you wept in your sleep. You don't remember. He called a visitation from the Archangel Michael. You gave him a raise. He now wears sandals made of fish leather. But not all dreams are holy. Some are problematic. A week ago, you dreamed of fire engulfing the Hagia Sophia. The monks interpreted it as divine purification. The patriarch saw it as a sign to increase tides. You saw it as indigestion from those stuffed grape leaves. Historians still argue whether such dream-shaped policy or merely followed it like a cautious dog. Either way, the pillows bore witness, and that made them sacred. Which brings us to tonight. Tonight's pillow arrangement includes 2 additions. One, a new balance cushion from the Southern Weavers, stuffed with equal parts fennel, fig bark, and eagle down. Supposedly, it restores harmony to the royal aura. The second is a memorial pillow, number 94, added to honor your father's passing. It bears his personal emblem, a tiny sunburst, and rests at the foot of your bed. You never touch it, but its presence reminds everyone that this bed, these layers, these rituals, their inheritance. Soft thrones pass down. You turn slightly, just enough to trigger the cooling bellows beneath pillow group 23. A small burst of lavender mist escapes from the built-in sachet. The chamber smells like a saint's breath. Outside, the wind brushes the curtains. Inside, your heartbeat slows. Your spiritual advisor approaches one final time and whispers a blessing into the ear-shaped cushion beside your head. He believes dreams enter through sound, not vision. You've never been brave enough to disagree. Now comes the stillness, the perfect alignment. All the layers, all the whispers, all the incense and oils and fabrics. That entire cathedral of rest now collapses into a single breath. Yours. Steady, slow, regal. And yet, you know the truth. You don't sleep because you're tired. You sleep because you must. Because in Byzantium, an emperor's slumber is his final proof of control. Anyone can rule. With armies. You rule with rest. You rise because you recline. You dominate because you dream. And so the empire watches breath held as you close your eyes beneath the weight of 100 whispers, 100 secrets, 100 prayers stuffed inside cloth and feather. And as sleep overtakes you, drifting soft and strange across your spine like the hand of a distant saint, the last thing you feel is not the pillow beneath your head, but the one at your feet, the one called Eshadin. And now, the chamber dims further still, its golden glow fading into the soft hush of sleep. The curtains sway gently, no longer from footsteps or royal attendants, but from the whisper of night air, cool and sweet as river water. The incense is burned low. Only a single ember glows in the brazier by your feet, pulsing like a sleepy heartbeat. The chanting has stopped. The eunuchs have withdrawn. The peacocks have tucked their jeweled feathers under wing. And you, beneath your 100 pillows, each one now still settled loyal, feel the last threads of wakefulness dissolve. Your body, so long supported by symbolism and cedarwood, finally forgets to be imperial. For a moment, you are just a person in a bed, a quiet figure wrapped in warm linen, surrounded by stories, hopes, and dreams stuffed into embroidered cases. The room breathes with you, soft in, soft out. The last candle flickers. The chamber listens, not for orders or declarations, but for the most sacred sound of all, the slow rhythm of sleep. You are still, and the empire, just for a moment, sleeps with you. Let your thoughts drift now, far from court, far from protocol. Let them settle into gentle images, of feathers brushing against silk, of cool stone beneath warm wool, of sunlight that never burns, only warms. There's nothing left to decide tonight. No wars to plan, no betrayals to ponder. Only this breath, this warmth, this waiting silence. So rest, my friend, whether your bed has 1 pillow or 100. May your sleep be deep, your dreams gentle, and your night entirely yours. And now, the chamber dims further still, its golden glow fading into the soft hush of sleep. The curtains sway gently, no longer from footsteps or royal attendants, but from the whisper of night air, cool and sweet as river water. The incense is burned low. Only a single ember glows in the brazier by your feet, pulsing like a sleepy heartbeat. The chanting has stopped. The eunuchs have withdrawn. The peacocks have tucked their jeweled feathers under wing. And you, beneath your 100 pillows, each one now still, settled loyal, feel the last threads of wakefulness dissolve. Your body, so long supported by symbolism and cedarwood, finally forgets to be imperial. For a moment, you are just a person in a bed, a quiet figure wrapped in warm linen, surrounded by stories, hopes, and dreams stuffed into embroidered cases. The room breathes with you, soft in, soft out. The last candle flickers. The chamber listens, not for orders or declarations, but for the most sacred sound of all, the slow rhythm of sleep. You are still, and the empire, just for a moment, sleeps with you. Let your thoughts drift now, far from court, far from protocol. Let them settle into gentle images, of feathers brushing against silk, of cool stone beneath warm wool, of sunlight that never burns, only warms. There's nothing left to decide tonight. No wars to plan, no betrayals to ponder. Only this breath, this warmth, this waiting silence. So rest, my friend, whether your bed has 1 pillow or 100. May your sleep be deep, your dreams gentle, and your night entirely yours.